What's good, everybody? What is good, everybody? The two young pastors are back in the building. And listen, y'all, we're excited. My name is Jajuan Sanders. I'm joined by my friend, my brother, my fellow pastor, Pastor Elijah Stanley. Listen, we are so excited
Mhm.
because we're inching closer and closer to September, which means we're actually inching closer and closer to into year two,
Mhm.
chapter 2 of our podcasting journey together. We actually began this journey last year around the September October season, and we're just so excited for what God has allowed us to go through during this time. And so, listen, we have like some major news coming up, some major news coming up surrounding year two,
Year
not
2.
just season 2, but year 2, chapter 2 of the Two Young Pastors podcast. And we're just excited for you all to indeed be joining with us. Listen, if you want to stay up to date on everything that we do, you want to make sure that you follow our YouTube page. You want to make
Mhm.
sure that you are connected to us and following us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on all the major audio streaming platforms, because we're not just here on YouTube, but we're also indeed on all the platforms that you can possibly listen to a podcast on. So you want to make sure that you're doing that, all right? You don't want to just be connected to us on one platform, but whichever one is the most convenient for you, you want to make sure that you are indeed listening on that one because, listen, we're growing, we're getting
Mm.
better and better. And I think that we're indeed having a good time. We're having a good time. And so, quick check in, and then we're going to hop into our topic for today. Pastor, how are you doing right now? How you feeling?
Man, I'm good, man. We're entering. We've been pretty busy all year, and then we call it at church because the majority, our jobs take up most of our lives. Just gearing up towards evangelism season here, uh, for the remainder of the year, man. But at
Yeah.
the same time, man, I'm planning for vacation in December.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that, going on a cruise again,
Yeah.
with the family, for Christmas. So that's gonna be really, really nice. So I'm looking forward to that. I have a cousin getting married in December too, man, down in Florida. So gonna go say hi to her, and then a few more things happening, bro. So I'm really, really looking forward to the rest of this year. It's gonna be very, very exciting. How about you, man? What's up?
Yeah, man. Gearing up. August is the transition month for me.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm really getting ready for my churches, and it's kind of interesting, right? Because August is typically the month where, and the pre at my previous church, you know, uh, Pastor Kenlock, Kenny, and I will begin to make plans for the following year, right?
Mm.
He would typically take that month off, and it was always like that transition month where you're just like, all right, so we're about 3 parts into the year, so we need to make sure that like we're ready for next year.
Mhm.
Because really, if you prepare later in the year, maybe like November, you're kind of sort of already behind the ball.
Mm.
Especially if you want like speakers to come in, if you want certain things like that, you're kind of sort of already behind the ball.
That's
And
true.
so, it's kind of interesting when I think about the fact that, yeah, man, this is the transition month for me, and it's weird because I don't know my churches yet, but I have to in my head begin coming up with a calendar. I have to indeed get to a space where it's like, hey, I have to at least put down some general things, some general like visionary things
Mhm.
for what church is supposed to look like. Because no matter where you go, there's some ideas for what ministry ought to look like. And
Mm.
so I think for me, it's about figuring out, hey, what can be applied and what can't be applied. Okay.
Mhm.
Because for me, it's like, hey, I learned so much from my time at Oakwood, from my time at Andrews, and now for my time spent at Metro. And so
Mhm.
it's like, hey, I'm going to put all of that together so that my two new churches, Millsboro and New Life, so that they can indeed get the best
Mhm.
out of that for this upcoming year, while also trying to make sure I'm also prepping and getting ready for wedding season. You know, February is right around the corner, and so there's so much that goes into this season.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm learning. Me and Janelle are both learning. You know, like, hey, don't apologize for the type of wedding experience that you want. Uh,
Mm.
of course, make sure you can afford what you're looking for.
Important.
You know, don't apologize if you're looking for a certain quality. We all have, like, your wedding is supposed to be a reflection of who you and your partner are. And so I think, like, we're honoring that, we're learning that, and I think it's been enjoyable, and I'm ready
That's
for
good.
this next chapter in life. I'm ready for this next chapter. So yeah, man, feeling good, feeling great, feeling great. And
Cool.
listen, bro, there's always a lot going on in our country, right?
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that we've seen, that's really like taken a step up this year with the new administration, of course, in our country, is the increase of ICE agents going into certain communities, and in some ways causing havoc, causing chaos, so that they can indeed deport certain individuals who have either come across um, country lines legally or illegally, right?
Mhm.
Because they're some of the people who they have taken up, they are legal citizens. They do have a right to be here.
Right.
And so I think that it's important that we acknowledge that they're not just going about this in a patient way. That it has,
Efficient. Yeah.
yeah, it has been, it's been more crude than it has
Mm.
been, efficient, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Yet, I think, interestingly, um, with the passing of the big, beautiful bill that President Trump has just put into place, it has increased the funding. It's increased the funding, right? That is going towards ICE pursuits. Okay. And so this is extremely important for several churches, especially if you've pastored in the DC metro area.
Mhm.
You've possibly seen or have come in contact with individuals who have been impacted by this, bro.
Yeah.
And see, I believe that it's imperative for every believer, it's imperative for every Christian, every pastor to not just be focused on um, dominantly spiritual things, but also things that have a spiritual tone. And of course, I think that, as it relates to what's happening to several immigrants, whether here legally or not legally, I believe that it's something that, as believers, as Christians, we can't just not talk about, uh,
Mm.
because it is indeed impacting so many people. And so, man, I want to talk about that today
Mm.
with you. And I think as like a starting point, I want to ask. Um, Around everything that has happened so far regarding immigration, um, and the issues that have been taking place this year in particular, what are some initial thoughts that you have about everything that's really been happening?
Yeah, man. Like when we're thinking about why this is important to us, bro, like a lot of things pop up into my mind. We we as a denomination, and what I mean by that is as Adventists and as Christians, we're pretty conservative in general, right? There are only a few of us that I would kind of put in that progressive left category, just because of the way that our theology runs compared to the political spectrum, right? So when it comes to immigration, our churches usually fall within that more conservative area of politics where it's more regulated, it's harder. That's where most of our churches fall into. And you and I aren't here to say that that's wrong, right? But rather in the atmosphere that we're in right now, there isn't really a lot of conversation in the majority of our churches about immigration. And the reason that that's an issue, man, is that if we read a few articles that ICE is lurking in church parking lots, man. They are actively engaging individuals, and really the words that a lot of the that even uh, USA Today and Christianity Today used are abducting people out of parking lots. They're being aggressive, walking up to the church building, knocking, and then banging, and then being aggressive with pastors and clergy. So, when we're talking about these things, man, it's not because we are like, hey, let's pick the most controversial thing to talk about, right? It's, hey, we're living in an atmosphere right now where the church is no longer a safe place for individuals to go to.
Yeah.
And even if they're inside the building itself, right? The government has shown that they don't really care. There have been like direct quotes from agents, um, uh, uh, pretty much saying that they could do whatever they want to do. So, we both are pastors, and we both are pastoring in one of the heavily populated areas in the country, a lot of immigrants, and it would be unwise for us not to at least open up that topic, man, and then just start to process through it a little bit.
And to add on to that, bro, I think one of the interesting things that we got to consider for real, is like the fact that, and our members need to have the proper view on this, because even within the church, bro, like there's split there's a split on how believers feel about this.
Mhm.
For the individuals who are Trump supporters, like there are several individuals who agree with what's actually taking place right now. They think that it's okay for it. And so I think that, like, if we're going to have kind of sort of like this discussion and really take some good get some good nuggets from it, I think we got to realize and we got to recognize, hey, this is a Christian issue. This is a
Mhm.
Christian issue.
Mhm.
Like, as believers, we should have an opinion about what's taking place in our country, especially as it relates to these immigration issues. And so, bro, you are an immigrant.
Yeah.
You actually came here from another country, and I want to ask, as an immigrant, what is your unique perspective on these issues that are taking place?
Yeah, man. Like, my family is and it's really interesting. If you speak to immigrants in general, right, not looking at their backgrounds, but most immigrants are generally religious, whether it's Christian, Muslim, or some like ancestral spirituality, right? Like they are inherently more conservative and they are religious as well.
Man,
And that's what, huh?
I didn't even know that. I
Yeah,
didn't know that at all, bro. That's actually interesting. That's interesting.
because most immigrants come from the South, which is
Mm,
Latin America, right? Most of them come from Asia, which has spread of a lot of Christian and Muslim and native spirituality, right? And a lot of those immigrants also come from West Africa, right? So there's a lot of overlap where as immigrants come in, they're bringing their spirituality with them. And
yeah.
what you see in a lot of other areas of the world, man, is that there's this very clear distinction that if you're not in the majority, you're not really vocalizing a lot of what you believe in, right? So,
That's interesting.
yeah, so if you're not in the majority, right? So like me, I'm from India,
Yeah.
right? The majority faith in India is Hinduism, right? And that's what dominates the landscape across the entire country. So when
Yes.
you're planning a church, you're pastoring, you're keeping in mind that you're in the minority, right? The pastoring um, filters are different there because here, right, we're operating in the sense that, oh, well, we are the majority and the government at some level, right, has our back because we're Christian,
Yeah.
right? But if you go to India, it's opposite. And the reason I bring that up is because when those individuals come here,
Yeah.
the same mindset of operating in in the minority is still there. So when there's issue like immigration that pops up, it's a hey, I'm gonna take a back seat because I'm still trying to figure out, and I still uh there's two important things. I'm still trying to figure out what I can contribute, right, to the
Mm,
country. And
mm,
number two, most immigrants love America more than I think those born here in the country. And here's
really?
what I mean. They have more patriotism in the sense
It's a bold
of
statement.
yeah, of saying, "Hey, I owe I owe this country everything," right?
Uh,
The success.
Bro, I have a hard time. Like I think I think you underestimate how patriotic some of our brothers and sisters, some of our brothers and sisters can indeed be.
Man, look, this is all from my personal experience where and maybe I could put it this way. I think on the surface, it looks like immigrants have more patriotism because they don't vocalize their discontent. I think I'll put it that way.
That's I think that's the difference. That's the
Yeah.
difference because I mean I think depending on who it is that you are indeed speaking to, I think certain minority groups here may vocalize more issues. Maybe even um, some of our Caucasian
Mhm.
uh, citizens here. But I think coming from Caucasians is a little different. It's a little different
Mhm.
than it is coming from, especially like Black people. I think there's a major difference. Who we blame or who takes responsibility for why certain things are the way it is in our country, it shifts depending on who the person is that's speaking. As a Black person, we recognize how we contributed to our country's progression,
Mhm.
yet how much this country does not necessarily prop us up in the way that it needs to. And yeah, there's only 12 to 13% of Black people here in this country, but you can't negate the fact that we really helped build so much of this. And unfortunately, this country and policies, people have really done a lot of work after slavery ended during the Reconstruction period to truly suppress the
Mhm.
progression of Black people,
Mhm.
uh, so that we would not have the same opportunities, so that we would not have the same advantages, and so that we would actually be farther back than our white brothers and sisters
Yeah.
who are here. And so we would place responsibility on a different group of people
Mhm.
than said white people. They will
Mhm.
place responsibility on another group of people, and
Right.
so yeah, they're likely more inclined to be more patriotic
Uh,
than
right.
the group of people.
Yeah, so, like, there's, like, a lot of dynamics within American, uh,
it's,
immigrants,
it's
right?
nuance.
Yeah, like, there's a bit of thing here and here and here,
Yeah.
and trying to relate that to our church is when these issues pop up, I think on the surface level, it's a hey, I'm not gonna say anything, but in the heart level, there's a real disconnect. And the reason I'm saying that is because even on a practical level, man, our church, and by our church, I mean Adventism, right? Because that's the church I'm a part of.
Yeah.
Uh, you and I know that the engine of growth really in most denominations is in immigrants,
Mm,
whether that's legal or illegal,
well,
right?
well,
That is the engine of growth
yeah.
because they're all coming with their spirituality from their home countries,
Yeah.
more conservative countries are coming here, and then we're evangelizing to them, and then they join our churches.
Yeah.
While the more American, more natural Americans that are born here, right, are becoming less and less focused on spirituality as a part of their life. So we're seeing this kind of needle move over,
Mhm.
and if you can't see it, our goal today really is to show you number reason why it's so important to have this conversation, not
Yeah,
really come to the end and make a decision because I think that's for our country to make, right? But for us, man, the reason it's important to have this conversation is there are individuals in our churches that are undocumented, illegal, whatever you want to call them, that you don't know about.
that's it. That's it. And like those individuals who you've possibly been to their homes and they're the nicest people in the world. They are indeed, some of them are indeed illegal immigrants.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, they haven't been processed properly, and as a result, they are considered illegal, right?
Yeah.
Yet, I think there are some ways that we should process this conversation. One, I think we should go and see what the Bible says. I actually pulled up a
Hmm.
couple of verses for us, bro. And this is just some Old Testament verses that we can pull from. One, as early as Exodus chapter 23, verse 9.
Mm.
This is when God has liberated the Israelites from, or still the Hebrews at this point in time, from the land of Egypt. Exodus chapter 23, verse 9, coming from the English Standard Version, it says this. It says, you shall not oppress a sojourner, essentially a
Mm.
traveler, a traveler. You know the heart of a sojourner, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. And bro, I think that this is a very important verse,
Hmm.
because there are several individuals who come here. There are a lot of individuals who come here because, one, there's more opportunity here
Right.
than there is in their country, either because the finances and the economic state is better, or because the crime rate is so bad, and the tendency for criminal activity to take place, and for harm to take place, is so increased wherever they're coming from, that it is better to happen here.
Hmm.
So that's one. That's one. But there's a second one. There's a second one found in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 19, that says, "You shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land
Mm.
of Egypt." Okay. Um, and so even in Leviticus, like there's consistency here, where God is consistently reminding his people, book to book, about how they should interact, how they should engage with the other. Okay.
Hmm.
When a stranger, coming from Leviticus chapter 19, verse 33 to 34, when a stranger sojourns with you in your land, so when they travel with you in your land,
Hmm.
you shall not do him wrong, not do him or her wrong, right? You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you.
Mm.
Meaning, you shall treat them as though they are one of your own,
Hmm.
and you shall love him or her as yourself. For once again, you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. And so,
That's good.
bro, I think that this is crucial, because we're seeing some consistency. All right, after God liberated the Hebrews from Egypt and allowed them to become their own nation, what we see is continual, like, repetition of ideologies. Hey, in Exodus, if there's a stranger that's among you,
Hmm.
like, treat them well. Leviticus, if there's a stranger that's among you, a sojourner, a traveler that's among you, treat them a certain way. Treat
Hmm.
them as one of your own. Love them as you would love yourself. Deuteronomy, it's repeated once again. And it has to be repeated, because God knew somewhere in his mind the tendency for us to become exclusive and to treat individuals different based on whatever difference it is, whether
Yeah.
based on race, whether based on location, whether based on gender and sex, whatever it is. God knows of the tendency for sin to separate God's creation, and so what we see biblically, at least in the Old Testament, all right, the Pentateuch,
Hmm.
Is God saying, "Hey, if you are my people, if you're my people, of course, let's set up some policies. Let's set up an attitude that we should have towards individuals who are foreigners, who are
Hmm.
from among us." And so I think that it's important for us to have that foundation, because as believers, like sola scriptura, like the Bible is our foundation. The Bible is our foundation, and so everything that we must have, every viewpoint that we must have, it must be rooted in the principles of of the Bible, my friend.
Yeah, yeah, man. Like, well, so what you brought up, man, in the discussion is important because a lot of our brothers and sisters that are in the camp of, hey, I don't see an issue with this, is usually because they're juggling between their political identity and their Christian identity. And what they're doing is they're making exceptions for their political identity by compromising their Christian identity. So there's like this fight between, well, this is what the Bible says: compassion, love, right? But then my political identity is saying, oh my goodness, I need to have some type of order or some type of thing where people are held accountable. And in that, it's okay to just sweep up everybody and then take care of the mistakes later, right? And in that, people are trying to justify actions because of what they politically believe. But if you were to put put into practice what you spiritually believe in your Christian identity and walk, you'll realize that for God, when he talks about what's important to him, Jesus summarized everything and says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, right? And then in the same manner, right, love your neighbor as yourself. He he summarized the entire law and commandments into those two. And to be honest, if we were to put those all together, man, is what's happening right now in our church par- uh, parking lots, outside of our churches, to our members, our fellow Christians, is that really loving them like how we love ourselves on a basic human level? Wouldn't you or me, if we were here undocumented, right, want the chance to see our day in court, right, want the chance to be able to have a better life for our families? And yes, right, laws were not kept, right, in the ways that individuals came over, but doesn't God extend to us mercy
Mhm.
instead of judgment right away? So there's like this jostling, man, that I see between the both, and unfortunately, we're letting our allegiance to our country over uh, we're allowing our allegiance to our country, uh,
Supersede.
exactly, our allegiance to God and His Word, where now they're saying, "Oh, I'm American Christian." Like,
Mhm.
what the heck does that mean? American Christian.
And see, I think that's really it, right? That's really the thing, because really, this is a political thing. It's a
Mhm.
very political thing, and maybe I think it's important for us as believers to understand that if you are a Christian, you must be political, right? Because there are some believers who will attempt to say, if you are a believer, you don't need to be political. Like
Man,
you need to be spiritual. And so, bro, I honestly think that like that's kind of sort of like the next thing that we should probably like get into just a little bit,
mhm,
because I remember in my conference, and even as in our conference, actually, this is before you were hired. I remember and back in the day, an Alleghany's conference, and just in several conferences within the Adventist Church in America, when all of the boycotts were happening
mm,
for Trayvon Martin or for George Floyd. There were several black individuals who were looking for Ted Wilson and looking
I
for
remember.
GC to say something. acknowledge the pain that's happening within the Black community in America, and it was silent. It was silent. And there were several individuals, several young individuals who took that as our church does not care. Our church
Mm,
doesn't care. And what's interesting is that there were individuals who rationalized their silence by saying, "Oh, we can't support the organization because they don't promote Christian values," and they found whatever reason they could
did not say anything.
be able to publicly denounce this movement, not because of what they were trying to do, but because they have queer people that they're supporting. And it's just like, so you're telling me that you care more about a person being queer and being part of the LGBTQ than you care about individuals who are other, who are different races, being treated with the same humanity, with the same sacredness that we believe God created all of us with. You
Mm, yeah,
like
it's rough.
we mixing up priorities here.
Mhm.
You're saying that sexuality is more important than human rights. That's a problem. It's a problem.
Man, like, dude, so j just kinda give insight into the immigrant community, right, on this issue right here.
Please.
When 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 you come from a country where your faith isn't the majority, you don't speak up in politics based on your faith. So, you don't really go out so in India, you don't see a lot of Christian politicians,
Okay.
right?
That makes sense.
And the reason is, uh, Christians in general in India, they're not living in fear, but if you enter into the wrong neighborhoods, if you if you
I was like, they probably get killed. They probably get killed.
you get killed and there's really no follow-up in terms of justice in those areas, right? Because it's villages, right? So you're done. Like they kill you. There are evangelists, there are pastors, there are churches that have been burnt down in 2025, right? So when individuals like that come here, it's
Mm,
a hey, just be grateful for what you have,
mm,
right? Like that's the mindset that's important. It's
yeah.
hey, just be thankful that you're not back where I came from,
Mm,
where if you went and you protest on the street on the wrong topic, right? You can have the entire village or the entire city like up in arms and mobs chasing you,
yeah.
right? So, man, dude, this is crazy, bro. I remember one time, it's like seared into like the mind
Uh-oh.
uh, of
Is this a bad thing? Is this a bad thing that you're about to tell me or something like
I
that?
don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a gruesome story,
Gruesome.
um,
Okay.
of trauma,
Oh,
of
tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me
uh,
more.
of like trauma bonding with your friends at church.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
we had we had a guest speaker come through from India at our home church, and we're like a pretty larger church out here in Silver Spring, right?
Yeah.
So we had so every time a prominent individual of Adventist heritage comes from India, they want
Yeah.
to come to the church to speak
Okay.
because they want to share what they're doing and to be honest, find some money to take back with them to do some mission work there, right?
Reasonable.
So and I guess that's okay on some level. But that individual came over, right? And he's preaching, and we're if you're a if you were not born here but raised in America, right? There's a certain level of communication. There are do's and don'ts, right? Where you're like, hey, if you're speaking to a large mixed um, audience, old people, families, children, like all in between. There are just some things you don't say and some things you don't do. Like you don't really talk about sex in a full general audience with kids. They're generally like I mean like full, you know, like
What was hap? What was hap? What was hap? What
okay.
happened when
I'm
this man
giving a lot of context
like
because because we're all in church, right? Taking, trying our best to listen.
He's a guest preacher, by the
He's a
way.
he's a
Like,
guest preacher. He's not the pastor. He's a guest preacher. And he's like, the mission work in India, it is tough right now. And I just want to show you what happened not too long ago. And he said, AV team, I gave you a video. Okay, just play it. So, there's like screens and stuff, right? And he played this video, and it's a mob surrounding a Christian guy. Um, and they're beating him to
mm,
death.
mm,
And
mm.
they're like surrounding him, and they're like kicking him in his head. They're like throwing stuff at him. And like we're all in high school, right? And we all look at the screen and we're seeing this dude just getting brutally
Come on.
like beaten and kicked to death. And they're all like kicking him in his head, and he's trying to like stand back up, and they're just keep keep hitting him. And then like after a point he's just laying on the ground. And then the guy in his sermon, I don't know how he followed that up, but every single parent, bro, in that church was furious. They said, "How do you come here and then share this video? Now my kids are scared." Like they're like parents actually took their kids out of the sanctuary while that was being played. And like it left like a traumatic.
So they missed the point. The parents missed the point. Like they were like, I don't want my kids to be exposed to that. Um, but that's a real thing. That's a real.
It
But I,
is a real thing.
young, if you're young, that can really be that can be problematic.
Like there's one thing saying it, and there's another thing showing it uh to kids.
There's this thing in America where like it's not enough to say it because like we say the same things over and over and over again, but because we don't see it, like we're so far removed
Mhm.
from that it's not
That's
really it's not a reality for us. And so it's like a sometimes you got to go to extreme measures to show people. I don't know if like a church service is like the space for that. Maybe like an evening program where you're trying to increase awareness on some things. But this is why the media team, um they they um they source the videos
right.
ahead of time and say, hey, we can't show this. It's too graphic. It's too graphic.
and that's what everyone was saying is, hey, like tell the parents I'm about to show something that might be upsetting, right? But again, right, if you're coming from that culture where it's normalized that violence is a part of your spiritual journey eventually,
Yeah,
right? Like personal violence, if you step out and share your faith and your convictions, especially on a government level, right?
yeah,
It really does not do you any favors when you come to a country where it's more vocalized to share your opinions, right? To go out and vote and to be like, hey, this is what I actually believe in. So, as an immigrant community, I think we're doing two huge disservices.
yeah,
Number one, we're not sharing with them that it's different here. That, hey, you need to be able to express yourself within reason, right? And there won't well now I guess that's not even true, saying that the government won't try to retaliate because they
yes,
obviously are, right?
yes.
um so I guess that doesn't work anymore. But you should be able we as a church should be able to support our immigrant community outside of just feeding them.
Yes. I completely agree. And I think that, it kind of sort of all comes to a head, for me at least, with something that Jesus said in the New Testament. You can find it in Matthew 25, verse 35. He says this, um, when I was hungry, you gave me food,
Mm,
was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me in. And I think that this is like a very powerful thing, because if you scroll down to like verse 40, it says, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of my brethren, you did unto me."
Mhm.
And the truth is that Jesus is coming back for a group of people, you know, who have fed those who were hungry, who provided clothes to those who needed covering, who welcomed in homeless when they needed a place to live, who were mentors to those who didn't have father figures or mother figures. He's coming back for those individuals because those individuals are a reflection of him. Even in Genesis, when Adam and Eve sinned for the very first time, they were individuals who were in need of assistance. They were in need of a source outside of themselves to save them from their mess, and God was that. And
Mhm.
see, I recognize that there are several individuals who are not come like there's, and we're going to have to continue. This is going to have to be a series, obviously,
Yeah.
because um like there's so many layers to this, and there's so much um conflicting narratives, so many lies that are being spread by a certain group of people, so that we can have a misrepresentation of the individuals who are here, and so that we can form a negative opinion about the immigrants who have come into our country. And I think that it colors everything. But the bottom of the line is that there are so many individuals who are coming here for a better opportunity, for better life. And I think that Elijah, if we indeed want to make sure that um, we and our churches are on the right side of this in history, we need to make sure that we indeed prepare our people to have the right mindset, because we cannot be the Christians, right? We can't be the people who claim to be in a
Mhm.
relationship with God, taking his name in vain because we are not treating his creation properly. I refuse to be one of those individuals who say I'm Christian, but you can't tell. You can't tell that I'm Christian based on how I am showing up. And so, bro, what are some closing thoughts that you have just for our episode today as we wrap up?
Yeah, man. Look, this ice and church, um, it's very important to us as a community because not only are they fellow believers in Christ, where we're bought by the same blood, baptized into the same name, right?
Yeah,
We hold accountability for their uh, protection, being their voices.
yeah,
And on top of that, on a practical level, man, they're the ones that love Jesus.
yeah,
They love him, and they're joining our churches in multitudes. And as the engine of the growth for our current church, man, we have to be very, very mindful that we have a responsibility to stand up for anyone in our church,
we do.
from an individual to a group of people, right? We have that responsibility. And if we're allowing um, organizations to be on our properties, on in our parking lots, into our churches, to pull people out and
Yeah,
to make them scared to come to a place that's safe, man, we need to hold our leaders accountable. We need to ask them what's going on. At the very least, we have to open up the word and see how God tells us to deal with those situations, man. And for our pastors that are listening, man, I would say, do you have an ICE protocol at church, right? Do you have a protocol at church that helps you and your members deal with ICE coming to your church? Because
yeah,
the fact is, man, they're there.
yeah,
They might not be there today, but they have quotas of arresting people every single day. And it's like it's it's a crazy number that they have to arrest every single day. So I read, man, that the reason that they're going after the easy targets, the ones that are working and the ones that are paying taxes, the ones that are like giving back to our country, is because they have to meet those numbers. So they're going to the farms, they're going out and just snatching people out because they're trying to hit a number at the end of the day to get bonuses and paid more. So as we as a community, what are we going to stand up for? Standing up for people to get paid more, or for our brothers and sisters that are going through it and need Christ's love and support from a church that they believe in?
Oh man, the ethics here is just jumping out at me. Last thing I would say is this, bro. It's coming from Zechariah, and truly, you can find equal treatment texts throughout the Bible, even in the letter of James, the epistle of James
Yeah.
to his churches is coming to mind. But in Zechariah chapter 7, verse 9 and 10, it says this: Thus saith the Lord of hosts, render true judgments, show kindness and mercy to one another.
Mm,
Do not oppress the widow, the orphan, the alien, meaning the foreigner,
hmm
or the poor, and do not devise evil in your hearts against one another. The reality is that there are so many individuals um, who who have in their hearts, if they're being honest, like they have an evil and mischievous view towards these minority groups,
Yeah.
these other groups. They want to take advantage of them. They want to oppress them, and they truly do want to have one leg up on them. And the truth is hey, will you as an individual or who has critical thinking, will you be able to see it for yourself, to be able to read through all the minutia and see, oh, these individuals don't care about patriotism
Mm,
or American pride. They just want to be able to take advantage of other groups of people.
yeah.
So you need, I think it's imperative for us to see, to be able to see, hey, is this happening in our time? And how are we possibly contributing to this? How are we enabling this to take place? Are we agreeing with the unfair treatment of certain individuals? Like they're not even like getting them, they're not even uh restraining them in humane ways. Like they're being excessively aggressive. They are harming these individuals. And so I think that it's imperative for us to see, hey, are we treating these individuals with kindness? Do we have a kind view? Even if they are indeed quote unquote criminals, right?
Mm.
I'll just say this. We jaywalk all the time. If you walk in the street, like you're jaywalking, that's committing a crime. You're
I
saying
think I think that's
uh, you're saying that individuals coming into this country, like it's illegal. Like you
I would I would say that's a bit different, but
I
I
don't
do see what you're saying though.
I don't think it's different because these individuals, they're not taking our jobs.
hmm
Like they're not making housing more crazy.
hmm
Like they're not negatively impacting our country at all.
hmm
They're actually helping for so many different reasons. If it wasn't
hmm
for immigrants coming here and having children, birth rates in our country would be going down.
Be
Like
different,
part
yeah.
of the reason why our country is still considered young is because of all the immigrants who are coming here and having children.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are also doing all the jobs that several Americans have said we're above that.
We're never gonna do. hmm
And so you're worried about you're literally worried about them coming into this country and saying, oh, it's a crime for them to come into. How are they really negatively impacting you?
Mm.
Because they're not taking up your tax dollars. But we'll explain more of that as we go on, because like I said, there's a lot of misinformation that has been conveyed by channels like Fox, and they've caused many individuals to have incorrect narratives. And so, with that being said, make sure that you have a kind view on the other,
hmm
on the aliens, the foreigners. Um, Make sure that you're treating them with fair judgment, fair
hmm
judgment, um, and make sure it's rooted. in Christ and not
Right.
just rooted in America. Uh, and, and we hope to see you next time. So just a reminder, please make sure that you like this video or like this episode wherever you're tuning in from. Share it with a friend who you think would appreciate it. Comment if you agree with some of our sentiments, even if you disagree.
Mhm.
We want to hear back from you, especially if
Yeah.
you tune in on YouTube. Make sure once again that you follow us on all of our streaming platforms. You can find that in any of our descriptions. It's there, and we hope to see you next time. So, folks, be blessed. And indeed, make sure that you set those notifications on so you can make sure that you're tuned in for our next episode.
All right,
Peace.
y'all.